Hello. In this session we are going to see how to create a new CANS assessment and just do some very simple data entry in order to get the values for the assessment in the system. And there's two ways to get the data into the system. One is just is from scratch, where you would create a new assessment like an initial assessment and enter the values for each question. Or another way to do it is if there are existing assessments in the system for the client, you can use the pre-populate feature, which will pull in an old assessment, and then the values that have changed from that previous assessment can be modified with the thought that from one assessment to another, maybe most of the values don't change, and so it's simpler to just pull in the old values and make the changes to the number of questions that actually have changed. So let's get started and see what we need to do. The first thing we're going to do is come down and click on the New Assessment button. And what comes up is a list of possible instruments that we can create a new assessment for. Now this list is based on the client's age and also what instruments are available in the system. And so we can see there are a number of assessments that we could create. We could create an ACE, ASQ, Brief P, or here is the one that we are interested is CANS. So if we click on CANS, we come and we see a new assessment. Now, there's some fairly basic information up at the top. The client's internal identifier, the client's name is here, the client's date of birth, all this stuff is pre-populated for you. The current assessor, which is me, is populated. The current date is populated, today's date. The one field that is not populated is the organizational unit. And since there are, in this case, multiple organizational units that we could pick from, the system can't choose automatically, so we have to make that choice. And so if we open up the drop-down, we see that there are two organizational units we can pick from, and we're going to do the assessment in Org Unit 106 is the one that we're interested in. So we make that selection. And now in order to navigate to the other sections of the assessment, what we do is we click on the buttons here. This will take you at a module level to the next module. So the next module, the assessment information, has two questions to it. One we're just kind of interested in here, the reason for assessment. And this is going to be an update assessment. So we pick that. We're going to leave this one blank. Go on to the next section and say that the caregiver does not apply at this time, and we come to the life domain, functioning domain, where there are actually now a number of questions that we need to answer. And so from this screen there are two ways you can enter data for each question. You can simply click on the input text box and enter a value, and then tab to the next one. So 0 for family, let's enter 1 for living situation. And you can see that the values we pick here are immediately reflected in the radio button group over here to the right. And of course we could just come over here and click on the radio button for the value we want. And we can see it's also immediately reflected in the text box. And what we can also see is, depending on the value we choose, the question is highlighted. So if you pick a 2, it's highlighted as yellow. Picking a 3, it's highlighted as red. And we could continue, so 0, 0, 0, so forth, 1. Now, what we can also do is this, we can see here that there's only one domain on the screen at this time. If we wanted to see all the domains for the assessment listed at one time on the screen, what we can do is come down and click on the Quick Data Entry Mode button. And clicking on that brings up the entire assessment and all the questions that you could enter a value for. So the point of this is simply to use numerical entry and tab to just very quickly go through and enter all the values. Now the next way, let's cancel out of here. So we don't want to save this just yet. We want to enter the data in another way, the pre-populate that I had talked about earlier. So what we do again is click on New Assessment, and again we're interested in CANS. And we need to pick an organizational unit, and again we're interested in organizational unit 106. And then we come down and we choose the pre-populate button. Now what this will do is bring up a list of all the potential previous assessments that we can pick from in order to pre-populate the current assessment. And in this case we're going to be interested in whatever the most recent one that was done is, which was this one from October 7, 2014. So we click on that, wait for the system to pre-populate all the values, and so if we navigate now over to the life domain functioning domain, we can see here are all the values from that previous assessment. Come to child youth strengths, and we can see, so now we just want to change this one to indicate that the value has changed from the previous assessment, and we're done. Come down to the bottom, click Save. Assessment is saved, and now what we can do is we can come and click on the client name up at the upper left, and we see here is the assessment that we just entered on March the 19th.